Hi, welcome back to another terrific episode of True Spoken. I'm Joe Statzer, the Executive Director of the Butler County Republican Party. This is coming to you from True Spoken Productions and brought to you by the Butler County Republican Party. Tonight we have a great guest, a special interview with someone who actually showed up at our Butler County Republican Party picnic the other night, Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan from Northern Ohio, the 4th District of Ohio. Many of you know who Jim Jordan is. He's a true blue Republican conservative. He is a fighter. He takes on people. He's taken on Dr. Fauci, Hillary Clinton, and a host of other people to get to the truth. That's why he's on True Spoken. He's outspoken and he speaks the truth. And we're glad to have him tonight in just a few moments on True Spoken, where he sat down and had an interview with us. So we had the picnic the other night, and we had Warren Davidson, our wonderful congressman, and Jim Jordan back together back to back, speaking to us, and it was just a really wonderful time. Everybody was just excited, celebrating America, chanting USA, and it's so refreshing, so invigorating to see so many people come out and celebrate our country, and the crowd just loving to be part of the GOP. And also it displayed real patriotism of our citizens and a sincere gratefulness to live in this country. And of course, the day after the picnic was September 11th, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And although it was a tragic remembrance, my heart was kind of lifted this year more by the fact that there were so many reflections that day through television and social media and events throughout the country where we really recognized 9/11. And yes, we still do remember 9/11. America is still lifted high as the ultimate standard of freedom and democracy in this world. And despite some of the leftist rhetoric, undermining liberty and criticizing our amazing heritage, the promise and success of America still shines as the bright beacon of hope in this weary world. Americans, for the most part, know that we're part of something special in this country. You know it and I know it, you feel it. And we're willing to go to great lengths to protect and defend our freedoms. So it's good and right that we celebrate our nation and humbly thank God that we are indeed Americans. It's a blessing. And what greater call could there be than to stand for freedom and to further the cause of this nation's independence? We have witnessed some disturbing things over the past year, shutting our nation down, which was totally unconstitutional, hearing so-called leaders call for defunding of our law enforcement, which of course would lead to anarchy. It's craziness. Opening our borders without proper protections and protocols, which puts our nation at great risk. Opening our ballot box to voters without proper ID to vote, which opens itself up for obvious corruption. Look, if we make it harder to get a bicycle or a cat than we do to vote, something is really wrong with our process. The fact of the matter is we have a great nation. It is up to us to protect our freedoms. Make no mistake, people in power want to take our freedoms away. Upon leaving the Constitutional Convention in 1776, Ben Franklin was asked, "What kind of government did your committee vote for us?" Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." It is up to all of us to keep it. Freedom will always have enemies, and those who enjoy freedom must be willing to do what is necessary to keep those freedoms. It's like Ronald Reagan once said, "We are forever only one generation from losing that freedom." Let's not be that one generation. In a moment, Congressman Jim Jordan. We're back to True Spoken, and we're honored tonight to have a very special guest. Congressman Jim Jordan, I think you were first elected to Congress in 2007. Jim, great to have you.
Thank you.
And a founding member of the Conservative House Freedom Caucus, which has really grown and become a very big force, thankfully, and also a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And you definitely have earned it.
Well, I don't know about that. But
very, very outspoken, and we're glad to have you in Congress. You have really done a great job. So if we can, let's start with a couple of things that's very hot right now, topics, and near and dear to you, obviously, because we've seen you with your debates with Dr. Fauci and some of the things that you've pointed out. What do you think about the president's recent mandate for vaccinations for companies over 100 and the general mandates that he's putting out there on the American people?
Wrong, unconstitutional, ridiculous. You think of whatever adjective you want to use. It is un-American. I think it would be found unconstitutional. So, but look, these guys have been wrong on so many things. Look, we all know COVID's serious. We've treated it seriously.
Sure.
But we also understand the Constitution is pretty darn important. Bill Barr made an amazing statement a year and a half ago when the lockdowns kind of first started. In the spring of 2020, Bill Barr put out a memo to all U.S. attorneys. And in that memo, he said, the Constitution is not suspended during a crisis. And amen to that. In fact, I would say that's when the Constitution is most important. And so now to have the President of the United States in that press conference last night or yesterday afternoon say that my patience is wearing thin, talking like some authoritarian. And remember, he works for us. That's how it works in our great country. So not to mention the practical side of this. You're an employer with 102 people. What are you going to do? You're going to go to 99. You're going to, right now, the number one issue I hear, the number one thing I hear from every single employer is I can't find enough people to work. Well, now they're just going to make it harder for people to get employees. So on a practical side, this is wrong. But most importantly, on a fundamental liberty, fundamental freedom, First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, just constitutional basis, this is dead wrong. I think they'll lose in court. But that doesn't stop the left from doing all the crazy things they've been trying to do.
Right. And it seems like it's based a lot on fear, just trying to make Americans fearful. You've mentioned, there's common sense, and you've said this, common sense ideas like natural immune systems and immunity to the country. So why can't liberals see that? What do you see as the main point?
I think you said it. It's about fear and control. It's about power and control and keeping people afraid. It's not good. It's not healthy. Plus, they haven't been square with us. Never forget Dr. Fauci, the all-knowing Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci knew on January 31st, 2020 at 10:32 p.m., he gets an email from one of these virologists, these doctors who get a bunch of your tax dollars in the form of grants. He gets an email from this doctor, Dr. Christian Anderson. The email says, virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. That's a fancy way of saying this thing came from a lab, which we all know is the most likely explanation for how we got this crazy virus. So he's on notice that night at 10:32. Dr. Fauci's emailing people at midnight, at 2 in the morning. He sets up a conference call the next day, and we don't get to see the emails from that conference call. They're all redacted. Every single email about that conference call where it's Fauci, the only guy from our government on the call, and 11 of these other virologists around the world who get your tax dollars. And I believe what happened on that conference call is they got their story straight. Because 4 days later, that same doctor who sent the email, virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory, 4 days later, that doctor says, oh, if you believe that the virus came from a lab, you're crazy conspiracy theorist baloney. Wow, he changed dramatically.
So 4 days later, he was a conspiracy theorist, and now he sets the register.
So they've been, I think, misleading us from the get-go.
Sure.
If you want to get the vaccine, God bless you. If you don't, if you have already had COVID, natural immunity, I understand that too. So it's about freedom. It's about how this country is supposed to work.
Well, turn to Afghanistan real quick. The tragedy that's went on there that's been, unfortunately, from our president. The botched the pullout and leaving we just talked about in our prayer. We prayed for the families who right now don't know what's going on with their loved ones in Afghanistan. Where do you see we go from here now that this has happened? Is this it for the president's credibility, our credibility in the country, around the world?
Well,
or where do we go?
We got some work to do to restore confidence, with our allies and make sure that they build that confidence back up and trust back up with our allies. I think that's going to be tough. This just goes to show when you project weakness from the Oval Office, bad guys do bad things, and we saw that. This would never happen. Never. Anyone with common sense, anyone with any logic and reasoning understands this would not happen in the Trump administration with a Secretary of State like Mike Pompeo. It just wouldn't have happened. But it's terrible what did. 13 service members gave their lives for our country. One was from our district, the very northern part of our district. Americans left behind, allies left behind, billions of dollars of equipment, weapons left behind. The people who did come here, the Afghans who come here, we know they're not all properly vetted. Right. So it was a debacle. Let's hope we can begin to restore credibility and restore trust. That restore the trust that our allies should have with the United States. But it's frightening, it's scary what you see, how you saw this last several weeks play out in Afghanistan, but it shouldn't surprise us because this administration hasn't done anything right. They haven't done anything. The border's a mess, crime is a mess, inflation's up. The energy policy is ridiculous. It's like you just go down the list, everything they've touched has been bad, and maybe that's why his approval ratings are now down in the 30s, I think.
Right, and that goes into election laws, which they're trying to overturn, and they had a successful turn at it in 2020 around the country. What happened in Pennsylvania, what happened in Georgia, those kind of things. How do we fight back and try to keep elections fair, ballot counting fair? How do we do that?
Well, states got to push back. The founders, in their wisdom, they set up the separate and equal branches of government in D.C., but they also set up the federal system where states and states are, under our Constitution, are in charge of election law. So you saw it happen in Georgia where they've changed their election law. You're seeing Texas clean up their election law even more. We have to push back at the state level. Second thing we got going for us now is I think in 2022, we're all going to be watching. I mean, everyone's on notice. Yeah. We're going to watch this stuff as close as we can and make sure there's no shenanigans. If there were shenanigans in 2020, and it's sure, my gut tells me something doesn't seem right. Now, I've never said it was stolen or rigged or anything like that. All I've said is let's investigate it, for goodness sake.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, just think about the basics. Biden would do an event. He'd have 7 circles painted on the ground. 5 people would show up. President Trump would do an event, 50,000.
That's absolutely true.
President Trump will increase his vote with African Americans, Hispanic Americans, got 11 million more votes than he got in 2016, won 19 of 20 bellwether counties, won Ohio by 8, Iowa by 8, Florida by 3, House Republicans won 27 out of 27 toss-up races, but somehow he lost to the guy that didn't leave his house.
Right.
Well, maybe that happened. But my gut sort of tells me, and all the constituents I represent, and all kinds of people I meet across the country tell me, shouldn't we maybe check this out? Yes, but the Democrats won't investigate it. They investigated the 2016 election for 4 years. They won't investigate the 2020 election for 4 minutes.
Right, and that's common sense, which you're a champion of. I mean, I think you really kind of espouse that, and then we get back a lot of things that just don't make sense like that. So, great. Well, you mentioned Donald Trump, and we're in Butler County. This is where the channel originates. Other people in other parts of the state watch this channel, but this is the county that had the #1 plurality of vote for Donald Trump, both in 2016 and 2020. We're very proud of that because this is a very conservative county, which you come from a conservative district too. Do you think Donald Trump runs again? Is that good for the party? Is that good for the country? Do you think it's what he should do?
Yes. I think you had 4 questions there. Yes to all of them. I hope so. I think he does run. I think it's great for the country. No president did more of what they said they would do, more of what he said he would do than President Trump, and he did it against amazing odds. I mean, everyone, all the mainstream press, all the Democrats, some of the Republicans, all the bureaucracy, everyone was against him. And in spite of that, amazing things. Did what he told. Just look, the best example is probably putting the embassy in Jerusalem. Every presidential candidate for the last 20, 30 years has said, if you like me, Republican or Democrat, you like me, I'll do it. They get elected and they come up with a million reasons why they can't do what they said they were going to do. President Trump said, I said I would do it. You guys elect me. I'm going to do it. He did it. It was great. So, I hope he runs. He's the leader of our party. He was the best president we've had, certainly in my lifetime, maybe the entire history of this country. We need someone tough, who's willing to take the heat that comes from the left and the crazy mainstream press who lie about us every day. We need that kind of individual. He's proven he can do it. I want him to run again, and I'm going to bust my tail. I've already endorsed him, even though he hasn't announced. I hope he announces. I hope he does it. I think he will. And I'm going to do everything I can to help him.
Great. You mentioned real quick that the press attacks and the social media leaders, some of the elite like to attack Donald Trump. They do that to you too. You're used to it a little bit, right? And I don't think it makes a difference.
No one likes it, but I've told my colleagues, particularly guys in the Freedom Caucus, I've said, if the press isn't saying something bad about you, you ain't doing anything any good. That's just the way it is.
Right.
And the president understood it. He understood it right away. He's the one who understood that the press lies all the time. It's a bunch of fake news, and you just got to keep pushing back and fighting for the Constitution and fighting for the American people.
Finally, again, we're glad to have you on here because you are championing a great cause, which is trying to restore liberty in this country, keep liberty. How do we get out there to tell the people? And there's a big crowd tonight. We're going to have you speaker in Butler County. Big crowd downstairs, anxious to watch you. We have a good contingent in Butler County in Ohio wanting to fight back. How do we continue to do that? Keep our liberty, keep our freedom.
Defend anyone who gets attacked. Someone's running for local school board because they're nervous that there might be, in our schools it's not like in some of these other places in the country, but they don't want this critical race theory, this Marxist ideology that teaches to hate America. It's just a bunch of blood. Someone runs for school board, they're getting attacked in the press, and the cancel culture mob and the online mob is coming after them. Defend that person. Elect good people to all offices, to local offices, to the school board,
Absolutely.
to the county commission, to the township trustee positions. Elect good quality people. You guys do that in Butler County, but defend people who are speaking up for the truth. I think we're going to win it back in 2022, the U.S. House. But in the meantime, we got our work cut out for us because the left they're crazy.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of Butler County and conservatives here in Butler County, thank you for all that you do in Congress for us. Jim Jordan, thank you.